Welcome all to Tapped Into Magic. I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
And I'm Logan.
And today we're going to be talking about getting into Oathbreaker and also EDH a bit, even though that's more kind of widely known and easier to get into than Oathbreaker.
Yeah, definitely.
But with Oathbreaker coming in hot in the scene right now, we wanted to make sure we got out there easy ways that you could get into it. We've broken it down into a couple categories here, so we're about to get into it.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different ways to pick up on EDH, but break it down into Oathbreaker. But before we get into that, we're going to be talking about a lot of different cards. And what better way, especially with a couple token decks, than to get custom tokens and lands from one of our partners / sponsors.
Yeah, was it Barth?
It's Barth? Yeah, it's one of the two. We'll have it in between us. He has a Twitter.
Interesting way to spell it. But yeah, he makes these awesome custom tokens. He also has some proxies of cards as well. If your play group allows you to play with those, they do look pretty nice. So yeah, we'll have a link down below and we'll show off some of the tokens here as well. But they're beautiful looking cards. Yeah, we really like them. We've been using them I built a token deck, a 4-color token deck just because of this partnership with Barth that we've got. Just so I can get out and use his tokens that he made us.
Yeah, it's really nice because not only can you buy like a deck of a whole pack of
like a playing card deck
tokens, you can also buy the singles in case you don't want to buy the whole pack because you get a bunch of them. You don't get one pack of a bunch of one tokens, but you can buy singles, and they're honestly pretty cheap and amazing art. So if you want to check out that, we'll have all that in the link down below. He also has a Patreon, so go support him on Patreon, while also just checking out kind of the art that he has. I know he has a bunch of other projects in the future. We're not going to talk about that right now.
Yeah, but stay tuned and keep an eye out.
Definitely.
They'll be coming and they look really cool.
They really do. But we're going to go ahead and jump into how to get into Oathbreaker. And we've been kind of brewing up different ways to break down. Yeah. And I think one of the ways that we want to start on is starting with EDH, actually.
Yeah, so I have a bunch of different decks, and whenever I build decks, I try to keep with what I already have. I've, over the years, collected a lot of staples and a lot of good cards that can go into multiple different kinds of decks. So an easy way for me to save money is I'll take apart decks and build decks based on the cards I already have. So I'll build these EDH decks or these commander decks, and when I found out about Oathbreaker, the easiest way for me that I thought that I could get into it is, hey, I have this commander deck here. Let's just put a planeswalker at the helm, pick a signature spell out of it, and pull 60 cards out of that commander deck. Yeah. Or 58 cards technically out of that commander deck and make it an Oathbreaker deck. I've done that with my Kozilek deck that I've made into a Karn.
Yeah.
Which you've seen in a deck tech video that we have on that.
Check that out. Right there.
Yeah, but yeah, so that was originally a Kozilek, the Great Distortion deck. But I literally just pull Karn right out of that.
Yeah.
I also have a Nicol Bolas Elder Dragon, the original Elder Dragon creature that I pull out the Nicol Bolas Dragon God. And I have a Nicol Bolas theme deck out of that. It's not super good, but it's control-y and it's very on theme.
It's very on theme.
Everything is like Nicol Bolas, or it steals stuff and stuff like that. We'll probably have a deck tech for that.
Yeah, no Elder Spell.
No Elder Spell.
Not as a signature spell. Is it?
I don't have it. I went out and I bought some things. I do buy occasional cards here and there if I'm picking it out and I think I need them, I'll go buy, but I try to keep with the cards that I already have. And then I also have an 8.5 Tails deck that I pulled a Gideon Oathbreaker deck out of.
Yeah, that started as a Gideon deck. But
yeah, it started as a Gideon deck, and that one I reversed that. I made it a Gideon deck and I turned it into an 8.5 Tails deck.
Yeah, so either way you want to go, it's really easy to jump into either side of the game. If I know I've been talking about or looking at a bunch of other Oathbreakers, and we'll talk about how we make Oathbreaker decks from scratch in a little bit. But I know I also have some decks that I break apart, like my Venser, which Venser the Sojourner, I believe is how you pronounce it, is my Blink. That was originally my Brago the Eternal King EDH deck, which I love both in Oathbreaker and Commander form because it does the same thing.
Very good deck.
Very what's the word I'm looking for? Very controlling, very oppressive. That's the word.
It depends. You can get some locks out, some stasis type stuff, or like against my Karn deck was really good because he
Yeah.
gets Spine of Ishsaw out, and I just can't really deal with it.
It can do some
So
pretty
you
nasty
just kind of blew
things.
up all my stuff repeatedly every turn.
Yeah, Reflector Mage is just a big bully.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the all-star of that deck. I also have things like Tezzeret the Seeker, the mono blue one from
Doesn't matter.
2015, something like that, which was my Seedry, my
Galvanic
Esper.
Genius. Yeah, your Esper
yeah,
deck.
my Esper artifact deck. I broke it down. I added a couple cards,
I was
had to
gonna say
add
that-
some land.
That had to have been hard, seeing as it was a 3-color deck and you were pulling a mono-colored Oathbreaker
Yeah.
out.
Okay, so what I did there is actually I took my Seedry deck,
Mhm.
and then I also had one of the pre-con decks that I added a couple of the artifacts
The
to.
Esper one from 2018.
No,
or
the
2018?
no, actually the Is It one from 2018.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 'cause it has a lot
took-
of blue
yeah,
artifacts.
it has a
centric
lot of
cards.
blue artifacts and token makers, which because of Brutaclad, but I just threw that in there and made that into my Tezzeret deck. Really, really good, really fun. The point is just to use Tezzeret's -5 to make them all into 5/5s and swing. And then I also have a Johnny the Great-Hearted, which is my Selesnya token super friends deck kind of thing.
Yeah, but you basically you had
and
a
that's fun.
Tristani deck, right? And you
Yeah, it
pulled that
was
from
it was
token
Tristani,
deck.
the Selesnya's voice, I believe.
You made that around the same time that I made my 4-color token deck, right? I think I made mine maybe a little bit after you made yours.
Wait,
but like
Tristani or Johnny?
Tristani, because that was right after we got the thing with Bareth.
Yes,
Or
yeah.
Farth.
Because I actually this deck has been made for a while. I just happened to pick it up from one of my friends and just throw some really good cards in it to make it a little better. But those are some ways to make it so that way if you're into EDH, then you can turn it into an Oathbreaker.
Yeah,
deck.
I feel like a lot of the people who find appeal in Oathbreaker, a lot of people who are getting into Oathbreaker are already Commander players. And especially for those who are like, I'm not too sure about this format yet. It looks really sweet, but I don't know if I want to make that commitment. A lot of times your Commander decks already have Planeswalkers in it that is similar to the color identity. Or, I mean, you can pick up a $5, $10 Planeswalker, or even one of the common or uncommon ones from War of the Spark that just came out.
Yes.
And you can just pull it out of your already made EDH decks and give it a test drive. You can see how you like the format, how it plays. That's also a really good way to get other people into this format. Maybe if you go to your local game store and there's people playing Commander and they might not be too sure about Oathbreaker, you can be like, hey, listen, you could just take your Commander deck, pull 60 cards from it, and we can play Oathbreaker. And it's a good way to get started for already existing Commander players where it doesn't require you to break the bank.
Yeah, I think
some of these Oathbreaker decks can get kind of expensive.
Yeah, it really depends. Like I texted you the other day and I said my sweet spot's like 140, which isn't crazy, but for a lot of casual players, it can be pretty expensive.
Yeah, and I feel like mine's more closer to like 300 to 500.
Yeah, like the past 2 decks that we showed on the channel.
But that, like I said, it's just cards I've already had and I've collected over the years. So
but I think it's a really good point that when you talk about going up to your LGS and talking about two people about getting into Oathbreaker, I know here ours where we live, I introduced some of them to it, just to the idea, and you pointing out that a lot of decks, EDH decks, already have supporting planeswalkers that do almost the exact same thing as what their deck wants to do.
You can keep the Oathbreaker deck on theme with what your Commander deck was. So there's not a lot of whole adding that you need. There's not new cards that you need and stuff like that.
It might slow the deck down a little bit just because planeswalkers tend to do that because it takes time to build the abilities and things like that. But like I said, with my Brago Venser deck, it plays almost the exact same way, except I see more of the cards more often. I can combo a little easier, but in a fun, not oppressive way sometimes.
Yeah, and especially when we have like 2 combo matchups together, we pretty much both go through the entire deck.
Yeah,
and it's almost like one of us might deck out here.
Right, exactly.
It's getting down to the wire.
We're drawing just too many cards because we're used to having 100, and now we're down to 58.
Yeah,
but I think something we want to get into more is about the players who kind of know about Magic, are in other fields of Magic, and they're like, wow, this new casual Oathbreaker format's
might
really
not
cool.
be into Commander as it is
Exactly.
already. Yeah, and you had mentioned it too, kind of earlier, when you were talking about the 2018 Commander deck, the blue-red one artifact. So we have 2 different sets of Commander decks that came out that already have a Planeswalker at the helm. Now, if you're someone who, it was both in 2014 and 2018. 2014 was 5 monocolors.
Yeah.
All 5 monocolors, and they have a Planeswalker at the front. And then 2018 was 4 different decks. There was Esper, Jund, Bant, and what was the last one? I don't think we have that one.
Mardu?
Was it Mardu? I don't think it was Mardu.
Yeah, Wingwraith.
That's Jund.
That's Jund. That is Jund.
Oh, I'm blanking. All right, comment below if you know.
I'm really bad at the three
one,
colors.
There's one more commander deck that I'm missing.
I want to go over it again, but it's not as important.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
So,
but anyways,
2014 and 20.
There's 9 different decks right there that already have a Planeswalker as the commander that already comes in the deck. It is the deck's color identity. You could just buy those decks, take 60 cards out of that, put one of the spells as your signature spell, and you have an Oathbreaker deck right there.
Yeah.
I think the 2018 decks, there's some, like most of them are still selling between like around like MSRP, like 40, 45.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of them maybe has jumped up to like 75, 80.
Yes.
But it's going to be a lot cheaper than maybe going out and buying a whole deck for yourself if you want a pretty decently tuned one.
Yeah. And it's easy to do that. Like, so with the commander already at the helm, just dig through the deck, especially for what is it? I think I said 2014, 2015. That was the one.
Oh, the monocolored one was 2014.
So
those ones are a little more expensive just because they're older and there's not as many out
like
there.
Like really good ones, like the mono blue. But like you said, with it already being a planeswalker at the helm and a monocolor, it's easy to dig through and find a signature spell that you can just throw at the helm and use that as a complete Oathbreaker deck.
Oh yeah,
so it's very easy. We recommend if you're just getting into Oathbreaker, maybe from modern or standard, or maybe you just play Pauper, something like that. It's very easy. Go out, pick up a $40 pre-built deck with a Planeswalker at the helm already, and you're set, good to go. But the only thing is that there's 100 cards, and I think we should now talk about kind of how we break down our EDH decks that we have and turn them into Oathbreaker decks.
Yeah. So I mean, I look through, I have a very systematic way of how I build my decks, both commander decks and Oathbreaker decks. I want to make sure that there's enough of certain types of cards in the deck to make sure that it still functions, along with having a cool, fun theme. I do love themes. I do try to stick to them, and I have a lot of cards that'll fit the theme in whatever deck I'm making. But there's a couple things that I want to make sure I have enough of. The really important ones being mana ramp and card draw. And then the other 2 that I make sure are in every deck is single target removal and board wipes or wraths. Those are 4 things that I make sure I have enough of in every deck. I normally, in Commander, I have 10 card draw, 10 ramp, depending on the deck. Some decks may differ, but as a baseline, 10 and 10. With Oathbreaker, I just cut it in half. I mean, the deck's a little less than half or a little more than half of a commander deck, but I just cut it in half. So to make it easy, I normally now have 5 mana ramp, 5 card draw instead.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little harder. I'm very light when it comes to board wipes, especially in my Oathbreaker decks. I have a lot of single target removal and less board wipes because I don't want to be drawing into 3 out of the 5 of my board wipes because it's very easy with a 58 card deck.
Board wipes are very important. In Commander, I'll have like 5+ board wipes. I'll have a lot of board wipes in my Commander decks. In my Oathbreaker ones, I only have like 2 to 3 board wipes, unless it's a very control heavy deck.
I had the 2 backwards.
If it's a control heavy deck and it doesn't play a lot of creatures, I'll put more. But more normally I'll have like 2 to 3 board wipes, but I have about 5 to 8 single target removal in my commander decks, but I stick with 5 in an Oathbreaker deck because I want to make sure to answer stuff. Because it's never fun if you're just getting your face beat in by someone's stuff or they're about to combo off and you don't have a way to get rid of it. So I always make sure that I have plenty of single target removal. I guess I am a Timmy in the fact that I like to play big things, but I also like to destroy and have interaction with other people's stuff too at the same time.
I'd say that the way you build your deck is a Timmy, but the way you think about your deck is more of a Johnny. Because you play big things, but you make sure you have those backups.
Yeah, and I make sure everything synergizes really well and works together well. Yeah, but other than that, other than those things, the rest of it's kind of up to you. Make sure you find a theme and you're sticking to it, whether it be token making, playing big stompy dudes, I don't know, some other ones, maybe an artifact-centric deck, something like that. The rest of the card slots are there for you to do with what you will. You can go kind of Voltron if you're playing like something like Gideon, or maybe
Yeah.
you can either
You could do that.
play something that, or like one that I've been messing around with too is an Elspeth that makes tokens, like Sun's Champion. And then you have a bunch of equipment in there, and then even if they die, you're like, all right, just make more tokens, equip them all to this token now instead, and still swing in. That's a decent strategy too, because Voltron can be kind of weak, but the token aspect kind of helps that.
Yeah, and like you were saying, with finding commanders that are kind of on flavor or have that tune that you want them to have, like tokens or whatnot. That's how I build my decks. Is when it comes to EDH or whatever, I find kind of what I want to build, the archetype that I want to have, and then I go from there. So my most recent ones that I haven't bought yet, but I want to, I was thinking about a Yeva deck. So Yeva is the mono green, gives all your green spells flash. Well, thanks to War of the Spark, there's a new Vivian that came out, and her static ability is your creature spells have flash.
Yep.
So I threw Vivian at the helm. I know for some reason a lot of my signature spells are tutors, so I have Worldly Tutor as a signature spell. I might change that around. I think I have an idea for another signature spell.
You're a creature heavy deck. It'll create a more toolbox like deck. Like you can have a lot of different creatures that have certain enter the battlefield effects or things like that. And you can kind of have Vivian out so that they have flash, and then Worldly Tutor. Instead of playing big stompy green, you can kind of turn that into more of a green control deck, which you don't see very often, and it would be pretty unique. Yeah,
see, I was going for more of a Johnny approach and just putting a bunch of big creatures in there. I think, or at Timmy, and we were talking a lot about just overrun effects on creatures. So, when I'm getting ready to attack, just flash in before my attack step and just stomp my opponent for well more than 20 points of damage.
Yeah.
But on other ways that I do this, and Yeva / Vivian is one way. I also did the same thing with a Teferi, the new Teferi, the Time Rattler, that I went and I was thinking, an Azorius control deck would be pretty sweet. Almost all source instants and sorceries, the only creatures that I'd have in there would help things cost less, or for me to bring back instants or sorceries from my graveyard. So I went and I just typed in to EDH Rec, which is a great place. Which
I do go there if I'm looking for new cards that I might need to add.
So which apparently is bringing in an Oathbreaker section 2, so that's pretty exciting. But for right now, go to EDH Rec, look for a commander. I went to one of the Ojitai commanders that used a lot of spells and went from there. So
good idea,
those are just a couple ways to build decks. You like to think a lot about what you put in your decks. I kind of just like throw it all together, then test it to see if it works.
I want to make sure it'll run. In order to run, you need to make sure you have enough land or mana, and you need to make sure you're drawing enough cards. If you're not doing either one of those, your deck's kind of not going to do anything. So I want to make sure I at least have the bases covered. I want to make sure I can kill some people's stuff, whiteboards, and then the rest of it, I make sure to kind of just, do what I want with the deck other than that. And I try to keep everything on theme as well. Even the cards that do draw cards, or they do mana ramp me, or they kill things, I want to try to keep that on theme with the deck as well. But so that was your way of kind of building decks in general.
That's just in general.
Another way, so I really like, I mentioned it before, I take cards that I already have and I'll go through and find a common theme. And I'll kind of just put everything in a pile that fits that theme onto my desk, and I'll just kind of break it down from there and pull out 60 cards from that. Like I did that with my Rao. I forget which Rao exactly is at the helm of my deck. We'll have them right here in the box here, the card reader. But I have a Rao deck that I just took all my favorite Is It spells and Is It creatures that get bigger with spells. Threw them in a pile, broke it down, and picked 60 cards out of it. I put Ral at the helm with I am blanking. I haven't played the deck in a while. It's a red spell. I think it's called Arcbound. So Ral shoots.
It's been a while since we played that one. So
yeah, it has been a while. But Rao can basically, I think I can discard a card and shoot something for the converted mana cost of that card. And then if I play Arcbound, it wipes the board and hits every player as well.
I really hope you're right, because if not, then we're just rambling about.
We are kind of rambling. But anyways, so that's my deck. I just kind of built with just the cards I had. I threw it all in a pile and took cards out of it. One thing to pay attention to, though, and no matter which way you're choosing to build your Oathbreaker decks, is something that I keep in mind too, is it's a faster format. Life totals are lower. You have more people attacking you than, like, let's say standard or draft or anything like that. You're going to have most of the time 3 other players that are attacking you. You want to keep your cards efficient. You're not going to want as expensive cards as you would in Commander, because in Commander there's a lot more time for setup. There's a lot more time to play more lands, so you have more time to play big splashy spells. Oathbreaker, not so much. You're still going to have chances where you can play bigger spells, but most of the time you're going to want to try to keep it more efficient, more lower costed spells, so that you can make sure you have things to do in the lower turns. That was a problem I had when I was first trying to make an Oathbreaker deck. I ended up just tearing it apart because all of the spells in there were really expensive, and you don't have as much time in Oathbreaker as you do in Commander. So if you do have a Commander deck and you're tearing it apart, you're taking out an Oathbreaker deck. Not tearing it apart, you can still kind of keep it together. But you are taking out an Oathbreaker deck from, like, a Commander deck. Make sure you keep in mind that if maybe you're not sure about 2 different cards that you want to put in it, look at the converted mana cost. And if it's a cheaper converted mana cost, that's going to be a good one. That's probably more likely to see better use in it. Yeah,
in Oathbreaker, you're losing a lot of your low-costing mana rocks. Your really efficient ones, I should say.
Your ones that net you mana.
So it's really hard to kind of give up things. In my Tezzeret deck, I have Mere Battlesphere, which is a 7-drop. Shouldn't be in the deck, but because there's so many mana rocks in that deck, I'm able to kind of ramp it up. So
there's exceptions.
There's exceptions.
Like, I have my Karn Eldrazi deck where obviously I'm playing big things and I ramp really hard. My Nissa deck ramps really fast and really hard, so I can play more expensive spells. There's always going to be exceptions, but just generally speaking,
you got to build.
You're going to want to build more efficient decks. You're going to want to actually pay attention to mana curve, whereas with my Commander decks, I don't pay attention to mana curve. I just kind of go. But with Oathbreaker, you're going to want to pay more attention to the mana curve of your deck to make sure that you have better chances of playing cards at the right turn.
Yeah, and I think a fair thing to point out when we're talking about, especially the way that you built Ral, is these decks aren't perfect. They're cards that we threw together, and I think this is a great way to kind of move into maybe budget ways to get into Oathbreaker. If you guys have seen our deck techs, which I do highly recommend. So, by the way, thank you for the support on all of the videos. Hit over 1,000 on our Nissa deck tech, which will have more coming out soon. But if you follow all the way through the end, we will always have a budget option where you can take out cards and move them in. It's not going to make them super cheap, but it's going to help the wallet. And I think one of the ways that I definitely got into making budget, and I think a lot of the Oathbreaker community is thinking the same way, is War of the Spark really helped out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So a lot of Planeswalkers that you're playing with, they're going to be kind of expensive. Planeswalkers are really sought after cards. They're going to be $5, $10. Some of them are really expensive. You get into the Teferis or something like Ugin or the old school, the original Planeswalker Karn, that's like $70. It can get kind of expensive as far as picking which Planeswalker, but War of the Spark had a lot of budget options that we're able to choose from now, something at uncommon and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Were there any common Planeswalkers in War of the Spark?
No,
or were they all uncommon?
Uncommon through Mythic.
Gotcha.
The only ones. Okay. But speaking of uncommon, I tried, and the keyword there is tried, to make a Vraska deck out of her,
like a Death Touch Matters type of deck?
It was literally every creature in that deck had Death Touch.
I haven't played that.
It didn't,
or against that.
No, because I'm like, wow, this deck sucks. Where the point of it is Vraska, her static ability is whenever a creature with Death Touch deals damage, it will get a +1/+1 counter. So I have a bunch of low drops and sort of high drop creatures that their point is to get out fast, hit quick, and then beef them up. So I have like a 1/1 rat with, I think it's like one of the typhoid rats. It's a 1/1. Just drop one for a 1/1 with death touch. You hit, and you're able to beef it up to a 5/5 in just a couple turns.
It's still not good.
No, not great. But if you're in the budget options, you already know that you're not going to be building spike level decks. So it's where the spark really gives and opens up that door for people to build. And
especially if you're playing with other people that are at that kind of same level, or your play group is at the same budget level that you are. I mean, even if you think your deck's not that good, or it might not be good as compared to some deck techs you're seeing on the internet, as long as it plays well within your play group, it's going to be okay. Also, it's a multiplayer format. So multiplayer allows you to use politicking, which is something I like to use a lot, which kind of gives you more of a chance if you have more of a budget deck or you're using cheaper cards, kind of gives you more of a chance to fight these more expensive decks. Even if they are in your play group, you can kind of politic your way into wins using your words along with your cards. So
with all the budget decks, just keep in mind, this isn't the only way. Is War of the Spark. I know you've been brewing up a couple different ways to get into
I've been taking a look, and I know
Oathbreaker.
other people have been doing this as well. I've been taking a look at the guild kits from the newest Ravnica set. Yeah. Now these are awesome. I really like these. We actually have a battle box of the first 5 that came out, it's always fun to just kind of, if we aren't feeling Commander or Oathbreaker that night, we want something a little quicker, we'll just pull 2 of those out and we'll fight. And that's always pretty fun. But yeah, right now I'm messing with an Azorius guild kit. I haven't had it finished yet. But taking the guild kits, taking out all the duplicates that are in those, throwing in a couple extra cards that you have laying around, and making an Oathbreaker deck out of that. Yeah. So I am going out and I'm going to be getting the Dovin. I don't remember exactly which one it is. It was played on the Loading Ready Run stream.
Grand Arbiter.
Is it Dovin Grand Arbiter? It is. Because he's more of an aggressive Azorius planeswalker, and he allows your creatures when they hit so you can draw cards. Haven't decided on a signature spell yet, but the guild kit has a lot of creatures, and it's almost like it's flying matters. So you're going to have a lot of flyers. So you're going to have tacked on evasion. So they're going to be hitting. So you're going to be drawing cards. And it has a mixture of control and creature heavy Azorius, which is interesting. You don't see a lot of. So yeah, basically, and honestly, the Azorius guild kit didn't have all that many duplicates.
That was my next question.
I just took out a couple cards, added a couple that I had laying around. I'm going to buy Dovin and figure out what signature spell I want at the helm. And that's basically going to be another Oathbreaker deck I just added for about $25-$30 total, probably. Just spent $35 and I have an Oathbreaker deck. And I'll come back next time we podcast after I've finished it and got some playtesting in with it. We'll figure out how it goes up against more of our more tuned decks as well. We play a lot of one-on-one Oathbreaker, which I know isn't super common, but we don't always have other people to play. So it's a lot of the time just him and I playing against each other. So we do get a lot of 1v1 Oathbreaker in. But yeah.
I mean, the only problem with that is that it kind of teaches you to go for one person. Because I know I have I think I've talked about it before on the podcast, is my Jace Mill deck. It's very tuned for 1v1 because that's originally what we were thinking.
It's hard to play against.
And then it's like guaranteed win.
Yeah, I don't have a very good win rate against this Jace deck, I have to admit.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody does.
Yeah, this is not good. Even my most aggressive deck can't really kill him fast enough before he mills me out.
Yeah. So. Oh, and another thing that just actually popped in my head were the Planeswalker versus decks.
Yep, I was thinking about that right before the podcast too. They do have the Planeswalker versus deck. They are going to have quite a few duplicates, so you're going to have to take a few more cards out. And they're older and they're not in the marketplace as much, so they're going to be more expensive.
Yes.
But that is an option that you can look at, and it has the potential to give you two Oathbreaker decks in one, which is very good.
I'm thinking more of they still have the single Oathbreaker decks, or not Oathbreaker decks, the Planeswalker decks.
So they do have those.
Yeah.
The Planeswalkers are more expensive. I don't even think they're that much. I think they're closer to 10 or 15.
10 or 15.
Just
the converted mana cost.
Yeah. The converted mana cost is a little higher. Obviously, they're not going to be as good as the other Planeswalkers in the same stat and standard. But it's a good budget way to get into Oathbreaker. You could pick up one of those Planeswalker decks as well. Do the same thing as with the guild kit. You take out duplicates, see what you have laying around, or maybe open up some booster packs too, and just throw cards that fit the color identity in there. Throw a signature spell that you like with the Planeswalker, and you have yourself an Oathbreaker deck for maybe $20 to $25, counting the added cards.
It's really cheap.
And then with all of these budget options as well, we're not saying that this has to be set in stone. You're not gonna have to play this deck forever.
Oh, no.
What's great with Oathbreaker Commander is they're eternal formats.
Yeah.
It's not like Brawl. It's not like Standard, where it's going to be rotating and you're going to be not able to play with these cards. You can keep a deck and you can tune it and you can add on to it forever. I know even the deck techs we've posted, I mean, I'm still tuning those decks. I'm still figuring out better cards, better ways to play the decks, things like that, adding in more threats. I know we had a comment today where someone was like, they had a comment on the Nissa deck where they think there could be more threats. I agree, because it's kind of right now, it's just controlling the game until I get one of my win cons, which I only have like 2 or 3 in the deck. And I'm trying to swing in and hopefully it doesn't get countered. But so everything's a work in progress. If you're starting off with these budget options, it's exactly what it is. It's just a start. And you can always, as you collect more Magic cards, as you look at deck lists, you can slowly gather and acquire more cards that add into those decks. Just like I've done through the years. I've started very budget with my Commander decks, and just over the years, I've slowly added cards here and there. And now I have a decent collection of decently priced cards. So it's a good start, and you don't have to feel like you're stuck in that budget option. You can always over time upgrade it. Which is something you should be doing in Oathbreaker and Commander.
And something I just want to point out is when we started talking about the Planeswalker decks is actually Weird Cards, the creator of Oathbreaker, actually put out a video of them turning one of these, the Planeswalker decks, because with I think it's just the singles. I don't think the doubles come with booster packs. They come with 2 booster packs in the back. You just crack those open, look for the same color identity, and take out a couple cards and throw it in.
And that gives you a couple more extra options as well.
So, and I mean, there's a possibility they could flow well. You can also open up something really good. Maybe you open up a new Planeswalker and bam, you just saved $5-10 in that. There's always that possibility. We'll throw a link in the description. It's a very short video of them showing you how to do it. And like we mentioned before, EDH should be coming out with an option for Oathbreaker. So I know we'll definitely be throwing up some deck techs up there. If they're not already made, we constantly are making decks.
They just take about a tapped out. So our deck techs on tapped out will go into them, and then they just have kind of calculations on all of the decks, all of the cards in this deck with this Oathbreaker. What are the percentages and how many are in each of the decks that we've collected data on and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that's how EDH Rec does there.
Yeah, I don't know
because they take all of the what is it? Like, let's say all the Tristani. They take all the Tristani decks on tapped out and MTG Goldfish and other sites like that, and they cross-reference all the cards that are matching in all of those decks, and they show them by like the most popular. What are the best cards in these categories for this deck across all of these decks? So our decks and tapped out are going to add to the data.
So they're going to be in there. Yeah. But like I was saying with EDH Rec, and kind of doing what I did with some of my Vivian and Teferi, you can easily just go over, click on one of the archetypes that you want. You can just type in a color identity that you want, go to the EDH Rec, find a commander that roughly does the same thing. Maybe hit the expensive one
even
first.
Something that's in the same color identity. It doesn't necessarily have to do exactly what you want.
No.
But sometimes it's good just to look at commander decks on EDH Rec that are just have the same colors and just scroll through it real quick, and you'll find cards that like, hey, this doesn't ascribe, or this isn't like towards any specific type of deck or archetype, but this goes really well in my blue-black deck. Like I have an Ashiok, like if someone has like an Ashiok Mill deck and they're just looking through a blue-black control deck and they're like, wow, this card was really good and in the color identity. It doesn't necessarily have to be in that, but it certainly can be. Yeah,
and when you go through, they have like I said, they have a budget option. So kind of doing what we were talking about when looking for Planeswalker and Oathbreaker, you can hit on the cheaper option, the budget decks, scroll through there. I know I've gotten a couple of mine of my EDH decks off of there from the budget options for like $40 and then tuned it up from there. So it's very easy to jump into EDH Rec, find a deck, buy it, and then go from there building a deck. So I think those are the best ways to go from EDH to Oathbreaker. You can do the reverse, just add a couple cards. We definitely have some budget options, some way to jump in if you're not in EDH or Oathbreaker yet. So I think hitting on all the points there, I think we basically just talked about everything that we can.
Talked about everything. I have kind of a bonus thing that I've been wanting to talk about since War of the Spark came out, and I think we should just kind of, we can add it. A good way to say it. But yeah, let's just kind of go into it. Throw it
in there.
Elder Spell.
Okay.
We mentioned it earlier.
Yes, we did.
There's a lot of people talking about how it's broken in Oathbreaker and should be banned.
Okay.
I don't think it should.
Okay, so I think I'm going off of this only because I've seen it on Twitter.
Okay.
I follow all of the Oathbreaker, we all follow each other.
Have talked about it too.
One of them put together one of these decks, really good flavor, skill level, all of that really high, through Nicol Bolas and the Elder Spell in. Now, it didn't have to be Nicol Bolas, but it could have been anything.
Any black deck.
Mono black, yeah. But as soon as they saw that Oathbreaker out with that signature spell in the
turns into archenemy.
It literally turns into, okay, that guy's not cool. We're gonna kill him first.
Signature spell is very interesting. It's very unique. You have access to a instant or sorcery at any point in the game as long as your planeswalker's on the field, but you are throwing it out on a billboard, what you're going to be trying to do from the very beginning of the game. That's
like having, not that I recommend it, Force of Will in your helm. I mean, obviously, it's not as good as if it was in your hand.
But people are going to see it, and they're going to play around it.
Yeah. So they see it coming from a mile away. They're able to either counter it, kill Nicol Bolas. Maybe they have an Elder Spell of their own, but it's not in their signature spell slot, which I think is a very good thing. Keep it in the 60. It's a very good card in Oathbreaker.
Elder Spell is a very good card in Oathbreaker, but I don't think it's broken.
No.
I don't think it's ban worthy. There's all these people who talk about like, oh, I've already broken the format or things like that, but I don't think they've ever actually played it, because if you have these cards as a signature spell, it's not the same, and it's not going to go how you think all the time. I mean, there might be a couple games where you get it off and you just win, like turn 6, whatever. That's fine. Oathbreaker is more of like a turn 6 format anyways. I'm pretty sure is what they've said on Twitter. But yeah, I don't think it's all that broken. And I kudos to Weird Cards for coming out and talking about how they're not going to be banning any cards right away. And they're going to wait, let it play out, let people play with cards. Period. Yeah, and not only that, but they're going to be very judicious, and their banning is going to be rare, is what it seems like. They're not going to want to ban everything. They're going to keep it rare. If you look, there's a common theme with all of the banning. It's things that reduce mana cost or net you mana.
Cheat things out too quick.
Things like that, and cards that can be abused in that way. And it's only because you can win like turn 4 or below.
Yeah, okay. So since we're talking about bans and what people have been complaining about, what do you think of Narset and Windfall? Now,
that's another one. I don't think either of them should be banned. I mean, possibly Narset. It does make sense just because she does the same thing Leovold does, and Leovold was banned for Commander.
See, the only problem is that you have to have her out and then cast it. Leovold was able to do it. You were able to do it very quick.
That's a good point.
In Commander, because you had all of those.
But it doesn't matter because you still had to cast Leovold and then cast a Windfall effect.
That's true.
It's the same thing. Leovold out there on his own doesn't really do much.
Okay, well,
it slows them down, but it's not until you play a Windfall effect or a wheel.
That's true.
Until it goes off.
Well, at the same time, do you think so? So there has, I know Command Zone talked about it there, where they wanted, when they were talking about bans, that Leovold should be banned as a commander, but not in the 99. But what do you feel about having Narset in there? You don't know if they have Windfall or anything like that. Maybe,
but you don't always have access to it. If it's in the 99, that's fine. You don't always have access to it. But the problem is, and it's the reason Commander got rid of their banned as commander ban list, is it makes it too complex, and it heightens the barrier to entry. a new player coming into the format, if they see 2 different ban lists that they have to pay attention to, they're not going to be as likely to actually want to build these decks. They're going to be like, oh, this is really hard. And they're going to like freeze because they don't really know what to do. Because, and I'm not saying that, I don't know, people out there are stupid, but it does make it a little more complicated to make decks in the format if you have 2 separate ban lists that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And that's the whole reason that the Commander Committee or EDH Committee, whatever they're called, got rid of the banned as Commander. And I don't think that weird cards should do that. I don't think, they're not going to, but I definitely don't think they should have a separate ban list for Commander. The things that they have in there are cards that can be abused when in the command zone. Narset can be abused in the command zone. You are kind of advertising what you're going to be doing in that deck. How much does it Narset cost? Converted mana cost wise. Is she 3?
3. I think it's 1.
That's very cheap. That's turn 4 locking your opponent's out.
Okay, but I do just want to point this out because joking around just in person and on Twitter recently with Standard. So I built a Standard deck and I can't afford 4 Search for Iscanas, which are $20 a pop right now. But Narset does the same thing, kind of with some drawbacks that she's a Planeswalker and stuff like that. But she helps me look at the top 4 cards, pick a non-creature, non-land from among them, and put it into my hand. So that's kind of why I'm teetering on not banning her at all. And I think something that Weird Cards is going off of is don't be a bad player. Don't be mean towards other people. Don't try to break the format. If you do,
okay. I thought you meant don't be a bad player. Like, suck it up, Buttercup. Narset's out there. You better find ways to deal.
Okay, but if someone sits down and says, "All right, I'm playing Narset with Windfall," you should be. If you can either say no and leave, or not playing that game, or if you're going to allow it, you're going to be like, "Yeah, let's go," and pull out a deck that's able to deal with that. Because they can pull out Narset on turn 3, but Windfall's also a 3-drop spell. So they at least have to wait until next turn to play it.
I do agree that I like how they're looking at Oathbreaker and being a very playgroup controlled format, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But your playgroup's going to basically decide what you can and can't do just based on the type of fun that you guys like, or the type of games you like playing, how much fun you like to have. If your playgroup is a playgroup that likes to play Narset Windfall and a bunch of decks that lock out the game and
break it turn 3,
and I wouldn't say break it, but it definitely brings it to a halt turn 4, and then now everyone's top decking. So I mean,
it takes away from the core, I feel,
but it leaves it
moral of Oathbreaker.
It leaves it up to the playgroup, and I think that's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to do ban lists. Is like, we're not banning the card. Yeah. You don't have to play it. You can talk to your playgroup and be like, "Hey, listen, man, or girl, I don't like when you play your Narset deck. Right. We don't have fun. You win every time. Logan, I don't like when you play your Jace Mill deck. You win.
I don't play it.
You win every time," and he doesn't play it.
No.
So I mean, people want to have fun.
It's not fun winning every game.
It's not fun winning every game. It's really not. As some people might disagree. It might be because we're not spikes.
That's true.
But we don't like winning every game. So leave it up to the playgroup. Don't be asking weird cards to ban cards. Don't be commenting saying, "Hey, I've broken the format," when you've never actually even played. If you've broken the format and you do play, cool. I hope your playgroup doesn't run you out of the house or LGS that you play at with pitchforks and torches. I mean, I don't know. Just have fun. That's the biggest thing. That's what this format's for. Just like Commander, have fun. Don't break it. If you want to play 2-drop, 3-drop mono black Commander with Elder Spell and just kill everyone's stuff, I mean, cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do that. Kudos to Weird Cards for not banning anything.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, and keeping it very rare as far as the bannings go. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, they have an eye an eye out. You can tell that they're a
there's gonna be
format that
playtesting.
knows they know what to be looking for.
They've been out for what, at least 2 years now?
Yeah.
So I mean, they know what they're doing. They've play tested. I'm sure they've been play testing with Elder Spell ever since it was spoiled right from the get-go. So they've had time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the big thing. I wanted to talk about, especially Elder Spell in particular, because especially when it was spoiled, and people were first starting to get into Oathbreaker, that it was a big issue, and they were talking about, hey, is this card going to be banned immediately? Like, what's going to happen? This seems broken, whatever. Turns out not so much, especially if you have it in the command zone and you're just kind of now the target right from the rip.
Definitely. I mean, there's a couple other things I actually want to talk about. What do you think? So Modern Horizons is right around the corner.
You mean Commander Masters?
I've seen memes about it. The bears. The token bears.
It's
They look so good. But
honestly,
how do you feel?
It might be good in Oathbreaker, because in Commander it'd be hard to build a 100-card bear deck, but in Oathbreaker, it would be a lot easier. You're not going to have a bear commander, obviously.
Sadly.
But it would be pretty fun to have a bear Oathbreaker deck, because there's not a lot of bears, but you can put every bear in there, and Oathbreaker decks are smaller, so it's going to be easier to build a bear deck.
I was sitting here trying to think of a way to build a bear deck around the new Modern Horizons.
That could be good.
No, but I was sitting there, I'm like, Arlen Cord's a really good wolf token deck. And that's the only thing that I could really come up with when it came to animals.
The green, red?
But no, the new Arlen Cord.
Is she just mono green?
Yeah, she's mono green. I forget what her static ability is.
Yeah, but then you have a bear deck that the Planeswalker makes wolves.
No. I was thinking strictly wolves. Me bringing up Modern Horizons, you texted me the other day freaking. No, you weren't really freaking out about it, but we were like, dude, did you see this card? And it was the 2-drop Gruul Planeswalker that came out.
Yeah, I just kind of showed it. I think we were together.
Yeah, we were recording another podcast. We were recording our other podcast. But I mean, how do you feel about? I'm kind of like,
I think it's good. I'm not like, oh, I need to build this right now. Like, but I think it's a good card. It gives another land strategy. I love land decks. See Nissa deck tech.
Yeah, right.
I like land decks, and it gives me another option for in red and green. I can throw Borborygmos in there. I can throw.
I feel like you throw him in every deck.
I like throwing lands at people's face.
Yeah,
so it's fun.
I don't know. I feel like it's a cheap Planeswalker, but I don't think that's what you want to be looking at when it comes to that. It's cheap, but it doesn't do anything on the field. So that's why I was kind of like,
it's not going to be.
Oh wow, the 2-drop Planeswalker. I think it comes in with 3 loyalty.
It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but if you're into that kind of thing and you want to play maybe a land-centric deck, which it looks like there's going to be a decent amount of red-green land-centric cards, at least lands that are in the graveyard cards. It's going to be something that someone wants to build around. I'll probably build one. I'll throw a Titania in there and some other land-centered cards.
Did you see the new? I don't know if it's a sorcery or an instant. It's in mono red. It gives all your lands, I think, mountain cycling or something like that.
I did not see that.
I think it was just leaked either today or yesterday.
No, might be why I wasn't really on there today.
Yeah, it was quite a sight to see, especially when it comes to the land matters.
There's a lot of good cards in this set. There is a lot of cards that are going to matter in Commander. There's a lot of good cards that are going to matter in Oathbreaker. This is an extremely exciting set to watch. I don't normally buy booster boxes, but I might buy a couple.
They're 214 a piece already.
I might buy
because it's so good. But I mean, we're getting down to our end step here, and I feel like we should kind of piece together what our schedule is going to be looking like. I think we're getting on a pretty solid schedule, and as you can see,
getting a new job before now. I've been bartending, to tell you the truth, and schedule's been a little all over the place. It's hard for us to get together and record because he has more of a set schedule. I'm bartending and kind of all over the place. But I'm going to be getting a new job here, going to have more of a consistent schedule. We're going to be able to get our podcasts out at more of a consistent schedule as well.
So I think right now we're looking at podcast deck tech back and forth from there. Don't worry, we have things in the cart for our battle deck that's coming soon. Our battle video that's coming soon.
Video, yep.
We're setting things up for that. Very excited.
We want to make sure that it's of the quality that we want.
Yes.
And that's why we haven't streamed as well. And I'm not even sure if we're going to. I know I personally actually don't want to stream. I want to keep them as already out battle videos, because I want them to be at a certain quality, and until we can put them out at that quality, we don't want to put them out there frequently. Yeah, so we want to make sure that we're putting out the best content possible out there. So until we get it to the quality that we want, sorry guys, but it's gonna wait.
It's gonna be a bit, but thank you for your patience. And since we kind of got the schedule out of the way, I think it's time to say thank you to everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Because we just hit 50 subscribers, which for YouTube channels isn't a lot, but we just started last month. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for hitting that subscribe button. Keep doing that. Make sure you ring that bell. Also, thank you for just watching the videos and just checking those things out. We'll have a bunch of links in the description below for things like weird cards, our different deck lists that we have, and other things that we talked about in
Barth's tokens and stuff like that. Make sure you're telling your friends about us as well. Make sure if you know in your playgroup people are playing Oathbreaker, let them know about us. Have them listen, give us a listen. Check us out on YouTube and the other podcasting sites. Tell everyone on your local game store about us and things like that. Get the word out. If you can help us grow this channel, that would be awesome, and we'd be very appreciative of that as well.
I definitely plan on doing some special things for you guys once we start hitting those solid milestones. That's just coming from me. You don't know about that. I've been thinking of a bunch of different ways to just thank you guys. There was one more thing I wanted to say. Can't think of it off the top of my head, but I think we'll just leave it at that.
Cool. Cliffhanger. Comment below what you think Logan was thinking of.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
The comments. You guys have been commenting a lot and just talking to us a lot, especially over on Reddit. We have personal Reddits. We don't actually have a Tapped Into Magic one. We've been talking a lot to other people. Anyone who comments, we're going to comment back. We're going to like it. We're going to pin it. We love seeing people comment because it's like, wow, real people.
Yeah, it's nice to see some interaction there as well. It definitely gives us a reason to keep coming back, because it's easy to, when you're doing something like this, you're not exactly getting paid. It's easy to get burnt out and not want to do it anymore. And especially with this amazing format like Oathbreaker, and even Commander as well, we want there to be more content out there. I know me personally, I'm on YouTube and I'm looking for more content for this stuff, and it's just like it's not out there. So we want to be the ones, good quality content, and we want to make sure we're the ones putting that out there. So if it's not something, feedback's always welcome.
Yeah, if it's not something we want to watch, we don't want to put it out there for you to watch. We always, whenever we set up a video, our podcast, our deck text, we always private it, and then we watch it just a couple of times to make sure it's what we wanted.
Like, hey, Logan, can you change this here or there?
Right,
things like that. But yeah, just so make sure you comment below as well. Let us know what you like, what you didn't like. Maybe give us some ideas of what we can talk about in the future. That would be greatly appreciated as well. Constructive criticism is always nice. I promise we won't be babies about it. You can go ahead and let us know. I always like to see that. Logan's real excited about the numbers, but I sent him the meme from the Wolf of Wall Street. Those are rookie numbers. We gotta get those numbers way up. So go ahead, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Help us with that. And like I said, just tell your friends. Help us out with that as well.
Yeah, but I think that's all we have for today for getting into Oathbreaker. Thank you guys for swinging by and tuning in with us. So until next time,
see you guys.
See ya.